Namo Buddhaya, and welcome to the Bdtv Sunday program. I am Lisa Chu. Today we will start with a Dharma talk, followed by a song and our weekly Dhammapada session. The Dharma talk is by Venerable Luang Hua Viradhammo, who is a Canadian monk in the Thai forest tradition of Theravada Buddhism. He was ordained as a monk in 1974 by Ajahn Chah at Wat No Pa Pong Monastery and became one of the first residents at Wat Pa Nanachat, the international monastery in northeast Thailand. Let us respectfully invite the Venerable to share part 2 of the Dharma topic, mindfulness in the digital age.
When you think about the Four Noble Truths and you think about tanha, kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, what is tanha about? Isn't it always about going out? Like, kama tanha is about consuming. And what is the thing we consume the most? It's thought. Thought is like endless potato chips. You just always chomp, 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 chomp. Another thought, another worry, another plan, another worry, another. It's just like consuming. So that is the really difficult part of the meditative life. How do you witness thinking and not repress it? Because thinking is natural. If you try to repress it, you'll think more. And yet if our attention is always preoccupied with thought, we can never notice the silence of the mind. So that's kama tanha. Bhava tanha is always the sense of becoming. We were talking about digital. I was looking at his digital body watch. What do you call those? The kind of, where it tracks everything, your sleep. And I said, well, why would you do that? Why would you want to know how many hours you slept? You just sleep, don't you? So maybe, I don't know about you, but maybe that creates a bhava, I have to sleep more. Or we were talking about paces, weren't we? This device measures the number of paces you took. That sounds bad. That you're always looking at your watch. Have I got enough paces? Do I have to do another 30,000 paces this week? That sounds like bhava tanha to me. I don't know. Why don't you just walk? I'm being facetious, obviously. But in meditation, that's a real problem. The whole thing of getting some level of insight or getting some level of samadhi, or I want to be a Sotapaddi this lifetime because I don't want to be born again, and blah, blah, blah. That's all bhava. That's all ego, self, inadequate, poor little inadequate me, and I want to become something. That's all bhava tanha. That's going out. And vibhava tanha, what's that? It's the rejection of what's going on. I don't want this fear. I should be nice all the time. I don't want this sickness. Rejecting one thing and trying to get to another. And that's the activity of craving, of delusion. And yet in any given moment you can say, oh, I don't want to be here right now. And then you're here right now. You get that? You're sitting with your eccentric uncle, and he's just going on and on and on and on and on. And you've heard him, for 10 years now, eccentric uncle, Uncle Charlie, whoever he is. And you're sitting, you're thinking, Uncle Charlie, shut up, will you? Or you don't say it, but you feel it. Enough. What is he going to? Oh, this is what it feels like not to like Uncle Charlie. You could feel guilty, think, I love you, Uncle Charlie, but you don't. You're fed up with it. But if you just say to yourself, oh, this is what fed up feels like, the mind knowing the mind, you all of a sudden are back home in the territory of freedom. And then Uncle Charlie keeps talking, and then you react again. Oh, Uncle Charlie feels this way. So our training and awakening is a constant remembering of something rather than an attainment of something. You can always remember this. Attainment is different. But the thing about awareness, it's not a quality of experience. Again, you can have a noisy experience and still be aware. You can have a difficult emotional uprising and still be aware. It's not a quality of experience. It's that which, we use the word transcendence. It transcends experience because it knows experience. When the feeling of irritation arises, is awareness irritated? Or does it know irritation? Does awareness take on the color of irritation, or does the mind with its emotions take on the color? Awareness has no color, it has no quality. So my recommendation is, like, play around with that idea if it's interesting or helpful. If it's not, then play around with other ideas, obviously. But try to use like simple sense data, like sound, and see if you can just recognize space. Consciousness is always there. And then apply that to the more difficult patterns of our emotional life and, the more complex things of our life. So I think that's quite a lot to consider. Any questions, maybe? Is that a kind of question thing?
Venerable Sir, when the Venerable was talking about the uncreated and unconditioned, I realized that if being at the present moment, it's unconditioned and it's uncreated. How is it uncreated? For example, when the child is born, only then consciousness comes. So in that way, is it consciousness created due to birth or?
Well,
thank you.
You enter into the area of doubt and speculation, and you'll never get an answer to that. Right? I could give you an answer, but probably next week you'll ask the next monk the same question. Because there's no answer to that. But what's really important is the very nature of doubt. Now, doubt is a sankhara. It's one of the khandhas. And what intellectuals do is when they have a doubt, so and it's a valid doubt, undoubtedly. A valid doubt, undoubtedly, that's good. There's nothing wrong with that, but it puts too much power into intellect. Intellect is limited, because it's also sankhata. It's also conditioned. So the challenge for the contemplative is not so much to answer all questions, but actually to know doubt as an object and allow yourself not to know. So the mood of annoyance is more obvious. If I feel annoyed, I can say to myself, oh, annoyance is this way. But when doubt arises, and doubt is, you need doubt. I'm not saying, you just become some kind of moron where you don't think. But in the spiritual life, if you really want to enter into the silence of the mind, doubt is one of the great hindrances. So without dismissing doubt, where is doubt useful and where does it become a hindrance? So if I'm, like, let's say, let's say I've done a PhD on Buddhism, which is pretty hard to recover from, I think. but then what has my mind done? It's created questions and conclusions. Questions, conclusions, questions, conclusions. Because I've used the intellect. And the intellect is that way. It's a kind of structure which likes confidence, it likes division. So then I do my PhD, and now a doubt comes up. Now, rather than knowing doubt as a sankhara, anicca dukkha anatta, I attach to it with thinking, what does that mean, and why is that? No. Now, even if I get an answer at the end of it, because that's the way my mind has now been set up in its patterning, then another question will come up. Equally intelligent, equally important, and then I'll think, and then I might get a conclusion or not, or I might ask a monk or not. But all the time my attention is out. The mind going out is the cause, the result of the mind going out is suffering. So in the classic way of say, in the lists we have, vicikicca, or doubt, is the third of the fetters, and also one of the hindrances to meditation. When you see the translations of, I think in the samyojana, the third fetter, which you can, the way the commentators say is you no longer have any doubt about the Buddha's teaching. I don't agree with that, because I think you should doubt the Buddha's teaching. You should question, you should look, you should inquire. I take it more you don't understand that doubt is anicca dukkha anatta, that it's a condition, that it's a sankhara, and knowing when to use doubt and when not to use doubt. Does that make sense? It's a very important question, actually, because this is one of the areas, like, we're probably all really, we're smart people. You know how to use computers, you probably all have tertiary education, so we use analysis a lot. And if you think about it, if you were on a computer for 12 hours today, analyzing things, thinking about, we're overly analytical centered. We're not agriculturalists now who are with the land and exhausted by working in the land. So one of the things, and this isn't about doubt so much, but is about the intellectual quality of our cultures, is that I really think we need to come down to the heart more, down to this area, down to loving kindness and the Brahmaviharas, and actually feel that area more. Because our default mechanism is thinking, doubting, analyzing, and so on. So one of the things I try to do is just literally, when there's a lot of thought going on, I just bring my attention through the throat, feel the throat, bring it down to the heart, and just try to stay there, using imagery or something like that. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Venerable.
Okay.
Moin Long Po. Thank you for the Dhamma talk earlier. Now, besides just being with the awareness to know the desire mind, because the desire mind tells us these lies, right? That if I do this, then I'll be happy. If I get this, then I'll be happy. Sometimes when I just stick with the awareness, I find it not enough to counteract it or to calm down. I was thinking, or I'm trying to get a refresher on how should I reflect on contentment to help boost the awareness.
Right. Good question, yeah. Probably we're all asking that one, aren't we? A similar kind of question. I think body awareness is very important. That, well, first of all, remember that practice takes time. So, let's say I've been weaving rugs recently, the last 2 years. And it's taken a long time to get confidence. And I don't notice how I become confident. I just become confident through the doing. So I fumble around with the warp, and I look at a book, I look at YouTube. How do you do this? But I keep trying. Then I get a glimmer of light. Oh, I get it. That's the way it works. And then I keep trying until one day I have more confidence. So I think that's important to realize that in cultivation, it does take a long time to cultivate skillful habits, skillful ways of attention. So the fact that you are making this intention now is going to be a good result 10 years down the road. Because you're sincere, you realize the delusions of craving, and now you're thinking, how do I do it? So just the very fact that you're asking that question means you're going to be noticing more how to do it. You'll be more aware of the very, very problem, which is half the battle, I think. So what would the strategies be? Well, right thinking is one of the strategies. So you have some insight around craving and its deluding nature. So that's what we call samadhi. You have right understanding around that area. So from that you develop a language to help you remember that insight. So the language might be a mantra. Might be like, I'll give you a coarse example. I have a friend, and she had a very rough childhood, and then she had problems of addiction from that rough childhood. a lot of food issues. And then she had therapy, and so she was getting through it. But whenever she started to go down psychologically, she'd go to the fridge and start eating a tub of ice cream or something to damp down the depression. So then she figured out, well, how can I do this? So she put a sign on her fridge. The answer isn't in here, which I thought was really skillful. So she stopped the mind there. So how can you somehow prevent the compulsive nature of desire? I would suggest fasting. Not on food, but on anything you really like to do. So it might be digital fasting for half a day. Or it might be shopping fasting for a week. Or it might be, whatever you want. But actually do without, but not in a severe way, not as a judgmental way, but in the fasting, in the not doing, then you can see the desire of wanting to do. So you set up a strategy of limitations and boundaries for yourself, which you say very loudly to yourself. So we call that adhitthana, making it a determination. But it's not like super ascetic. It's just to heighten your awareness of the distracting nature of desire. And that's how monasticism works. We have limited outgoing, and we watch within those boundaries. So let's say you decided that one area of your distraction is you're obsessed with badminton. Can one be obsessed with badminton? I'm not sure. Or sport, So you're always just watching sport all the time, something like that. You think, well, that's really, I think I'll just do without sport for 6 hours. This is a rough example. So then you wake up in the morning, you make your adhitthana, and then after 10 minutes, of course, you want to see what the sports scores are. And then you've made a determination, so then you can see desire. Now you see desire wanting to go out, but you've got a boundary that you've put on yourself as a training, as an interesting training. So then you see, the desire to go out is suffering, and you're just patient with it. And then after 10 minutes, you feel the desire, and you say, that was a stupid adhitthana, and you watch the the sport. And then you start again the next day. Okay, no, this is serious. So you play around with desire. You try to become intelligent of it, rather than just being very judgmental. Because these are desire bodies. They are, that's their nature. And culture is consumer culture. They have the best psychologists working on your mind so that you buy their stuff or whatever. So you realize you're up against a kind of pretty big thing. So I would just take pieces, like a lot of people do the 8 precepts for one day of the week. Or they'll just give something up, but always with the idea of not repressing, but understanding. You can kind of give up something out of some kind of willpower, but that's not intelligent. That's just willpower. But if it's intelligent, you kind of, I see how that works. And I mean, retreats are very good. If you can, I realize people have work and so on, but a longer period of meditation where you are really fasting, as it were, on distraction, you get a sense of a stronger inner silence. Finally, I would say, if possible, a strong morning meditation. A really strong morning meditation helps a lot in that way. And morning meditation means you need a good night's sleep. It means you have to be boring. Go to sleep at 9 o'clock. Some ridiculous hour, 9:30. And get up early and do some serious practice, at times when everyone is dead to the world. I realize very few people can do that, but that is a very powerful source of going to that which is non-desire. Because if you can fulfill your heart with happiness rather than just limitation, If you can fulfill your heart, you don't want things as much. So if in meditation you develop the Brahma Viharas, or you practice generosity, all those things which really help, which really make you happy, then the need for distractions is less and less and less. But again, I think the most important thing is your question and your integrity and your intelligence to say, okay, how do I do this? How do I live a life which is less distracting? And then you develop your own ways. You're halfway there. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Long Po.
Good morning, Venerable. I have a question on the desire of survival and self-protection, and that cause when I meet situation of injustice or bully, I often spend a lot of time decide what action to take. So the first action will be the survival instinct, where I will fight back, I will stop people bullying me, or I have to fight for the injustice. But by doing that, I realize there's a lot of suffering. I might need to, say, go to take action, law action, or protect myself, or confront to that person. Then a lot of anger and adversity. I must say, I haven't had the wisdom to do all these things wisely without create more bad sankhara. So then I will say to myself, if I haven't got this wisdom, is it better that I accept all this injustice or bully could just be my sankhara, and I should just accept that and keep quiet by not creating more bad sankhara?
I wouldn't allow people to bully you. It's not good for them and not good for you. So I'd say take up karate. Mental karate.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I would, I live a really benign life, so rarely, I don't get that. But I would say the bully, from my little understanding of it, the bully feeds on fear and power. And if you are fearful of them, then they tend to bully more because they know they can get away with it. You probably have more experience than me, but if you can call them on it, then they're more cautious because they know they can't get away. So there is something about standing up to a bully. If the bully is going to punch you in the head, then you run, right? So you have to be careful of your own physical well-being. But then I guess you'd have to try to use that as your meditation. That very confrontation would become your meditation object experience because it's there in your life. Obviously, if you can get a new job, a new relationship, a new country, whatever the magnitude of the bullying is, you try to do the best you can environmentally. But if that's not available, and you're like, there's also like going, like if it's physical abuse, then obviously you go to the law. So leaving aside all those things, let's say it's a work situation and the person has more power or whatever, then that has to be your practice. So as the bullying's taking place, you're really trying to center yourself in yourself and seeing how this is affecting you. Okay, this is what it feels like to be oppressed, which doesn't mean that you don't say enough. You can do that, but you're kind of trying to get your center within this barrage of abuse. I don't know if I'm portraying it correctly, because if you can't stay centered and then you can come from a strong place, then the bully has less power than you. But you do then, the result is that you have an echo in your mind of the violence, the language, and then it's very important actually to meditate and try to work off the toxic nature of that encounter. It's obviously very, very toxic, and if you could not have that encounter, you just, try to not to have it as much as possible. But if it's there and it's happening, then somehow that is your practice. And to say it's just my karma, right? I have to accept it, I think it's too passive. It's also your karma that you're strong. It's also your karma that you're smart. And I mean, you have the integrity to deal with that. I've only had like a couple of situations where I've been bullied as a monk. And for me, I could see it was the bully could get my fear response. Now, this was a monastic situation, so it was kind of passive-aggressive behavior going on. And I just had to watch I wasn't handling it well. I'd either yell back at the guy, or I'd be apologetic, but I knew I wasn't coming from the right place. So I kept watching, and I said, oh, it's the fear. This guy's got my fear button. And bullies are like that. They know how to manipulate. So his language and he knew how to, he was a monk. A deluded monk. And really surprised me, but he knew how to play the game. So it took me a couple of weeks to figure this out. Wow, why can't I just, and then I saw the fear. And then in the interaction, I just watched the fear. Okay, that's it. Okay, I got it. And it took like a couple of interactions when I figured it out. And then I spoke. The third time, I just spoke through the fear. And he knew that I knew. He couldn't do that anymore. And then 2 days later, asked him to leave the monastery. Because he was bad. He was a really toxic monk. But I had to work that through first. Because I knew if I didn't work it through, I wouldn't understand myself. I mean, it's a different situation. But for me, it was that he had my fear button. He knew how to manipulate that in some kind of a way. So it was very liberating in that way. But I knew as a human being, I had a responsibility to the monastery. This guy's really off. He needs to... And what happened, it shook him up. And it shook him up so much, oh wow, I really lost it. So he started to learn about that. Think of it more that if they are oppressing you, they're creating bad karma. So by you punching him in the nose, it helps them. Not physically, but by you stopping it, actually, you're helping in their delusion. They might not know it, but they're not really creating very good karma. So the idea that we should be tolerant is not an idea of that we should tolerate injustice. That's not it. In a monastery, if someone breaks the rules, we call them. They can't say, oh, it's anatta, or that we're being intolerant. No, this is the rule. If you're going to live here, you live by this rule, by right speech. You can't. So the Vinaya is very strict that way. So tolerance is within social justice, that kind of a thing. So yeah, be careful of that idealism. I think many Buddhists think that metta, the practice of metta, means you accept the ignorance of people. But no, I think wisdom also says, no, this is wrong. Social justice is very, very important. And you're helping others in that situation. Others are afraid. Yeah, exactly. Do karate. But, your work situations, you get someone has this power imbalances that we have in life. So I think, again, going home and doing something, doing some yoga, running, going for a walk, doing some sitting meditation, releasing all that stress is terribly important. Terribly important. Good luck.
How do you differentiate between nibbida, disenchantment, with a general sense of boredom? Boredom that we feel, that we need to consume through our five senses to fill up the holes as we live.
So what's the difference between nibbida and boredom? Boredom being the need to always distract, correct? That's the question? Yeah? Well, when you know boredom as an object, then what's the problem with boredom? It's the thinking. So you feel bored, and rather than saying boredom feels like this, you start to look around for something which is not boring. And that might be through thought, it might be looking at people, looking at your watch, or whatever. So there isn't awareness of boredom as an object. You know you're bored, But you don't see boredom as an object, you're the subject. And it's very quick. You know, you get bored with a Dhamma talk and you, oh well, you know, and right away you're born as a boring person. Not really. You're born into boredom. But when you have enough mindfulness, like Lumpur Cha would say, when you listen to a Dhamma talk, listen from here. So, you know, like you listen to a Dhamma talk and then your mind starts to feel bored. Oh, I've heard that again. Oh, five khandhas. If I hear the 5 khandhas again, I don't know. That's boredom, right? And you say, oh, boredom feels this way. The mind knowing the mind. Where nibbida is, for me, it's the basic realization that you cannot find the unconditioned in a condition. You know, trying to find the unconditioned in the condition is like trying to find the ice cream cone in the oven. You're just looking in the wrong place. So that to me is the basic move of Buddhist renunciation. It's not about shaving your head and not enjoying life. It's just, if you're interested in the Nibbana Sutta, if you're interested in the unconditioned, the uncreated, unoriginal, unformed, you cannot be searching for it in the conditioned. And the mind going out is seeking something in the conditioned, which is about happiness. So happiness is okay. You like milk in your coffee or you like sugar in your coffee. There's nothing wrong with that. Natural. But it's not, you know, milk in your coffee or sugar in your coffee is not Nibbana, right? It's just pleasant or unpleasant. So you realize, okay, where do you look if you're interested in that spiritual dimension of your life without dismissing the other? You know, you can still enjoy life. And then nibbida, I guess, becomes more and more profound. So the need for distraction as the heavy tanhas begin to be witnessed and liberated from the mind, then more and more the mind has this incredible fulfillment in the heart because it has a lot of love, there's peace, all those things, and the distractions of the world, why? You know, why make the mind coarse with distraction? Why do that? But to me, it's that basic understanding that you cannot find the unconditioned in the conditioned. Yeah? Sorry I made fun of your watch.
We would like to present a Buddhist song with good teaching values titled Universal Language of Compassion by Bdtv.
Live by the Dharma. Live by your spirit. Be one with Sangha. Be like a dewdrop at sea into the great shining sea. Keep up your mind and be free. Let's all be one in the Lord. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Leave all your worries and your desires. Leave all your brothers and all your neighbors. Be like a dewdrop that sleeps into the great shining sea. Let's all be one in the Lord. Love is the way of the Lord. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. What could it be to live in grace? It's only you. 100 years, free are my promissory. Love is the ultimate key. Let's all be one in the Lord. Love is the way of the Lord. True love is giving without remembering. Love is compassion with no distinction. Love is the way of the Lord. Follow the path of the Lord. Lift up your mind and be free. Let's all be one in the Lord. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum.
Now it's time for the weekly Dhammapada sermon, a collection of sayings of Buddha, which is one of the best known Buddhist scriptures and most widely read. The Dhammapada verse 91 will be presented by Venerable Professor Bhante Sivali. Let us welcome Bhante Sivali to present a brief sermon of the Dhammapada verse 91.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening. Welcome to the Dhammapada program of the Bdtv. Last week, I said that we are going to discuss 4 stages leading to the enlightenment or arahantship, because we were unable to move forward without the knowledge, without that knowledge of 4 stages leading to the enlightenment. We have completed the chapter 6 that dealt with the man or woman steadily increasing in wisdom. Now we have started to deal with the chapter that treats the person who is completely illumined, Arahant. Literally, one who is deserving. An Arahant is that person who, having developed the fullness of his humanity by attaining nirvana, now truly deserve to be called a human being. The Buddha once said about the Arahant, profound, measureless, unfathomable. And it's just like the great oceans. Profound, measureless, unfathomable. These are 3 characteristics of an Arahant. Like the great ocean, said the Buddha. The concept reborn does not apply to him. And also, not reborn concept does not apply to him. Thousands of monks, nuns, and lay followers, both male and female, said to have attained this state within the Buddha's lifetime. We were not yet enlightened. I mean to say, I'm not yet enlightened. Like we are on a spiritual path. Upon attaining this initial stage of sainthood, he eliminates three fetters. Three fetters. We call in Pali samyojana, that bind him to existence. That binds him to existence. The three. First, sakkaya ditti. Sati kaye ditti, literally. When a group of compound exists, here kaya refers to the five aggregates of matter: feeling, perception, mental states, and consciousness. These are words, but deep meaning there. It's hard to digest, but these are the things that we have to get rid of. Hard to understand, hard to get rid of them. We don't get the opportunity easily. Dhamma is there, path is there. Only what we need, a person to tread the path. So these five aggregates of matter, feeling, perception, mental states, and consciousness, the view that there exists an unchanging entity, a permanent soul. This was really a biggest problem that everyone was holding this theory of a soul. There is unending, permanent soul with us. The view that there exists an unchanging entity, a permanent soul. When there is a complex compound of psychophysical aggregates, is termed sakkaya ditti. Sakkaya ditti. Can you understand what I mean to say? The view that there exists an unchanging entity, a permanent soul in this physical body. When there is a complex compound or psychophysical aggregates. I hope you understand. These words are very deep, meaningful words. But there are no other words to explain this unless you see these things with the insight. So, but at least the knowledge is required. So this aggregate is termed sakkaya ditti. In the commentaries, it enumerates 20 kinds of such soul theories, Sakkaya Ditthi, soul theories, theory of soul. That means something permanent entity is existing. Even after death it is traveling. That's the view. The Sakkaya Ditthi is usually rendered as self-illusion. Self-illusion. Theory of individuality or illusion of individualism. This is called Sakkaya Ditthi, the first one of the three. Second comes Vicikiccha, doubts. They are doubts about the Buddha, the Dhamma, his noble teachings, the Sangha, his noble, enlightened disciples of the order. The disciplinary rules, the rules of disciplines, and the disciplinary rules, and then comes the past. The past. 6 is the future. 7th, both the past and the future. And the 8th is dependent origination, paticca samuppada. Then comes the Silabbata Paramasa. What I said was just merely verbal meanings. But we need to have a detailed explanation in order for us to understand these things until we see them through our insight. So third is Silabbata Paramasa, adherence to wrongful rites and ceremonies. Wrongful rites and ceremonies. These rule the world. Everywhere, in every country, in every people. There are rites, ceremonies, rituals, wrongful ones. So in the commentaries it is explained, it is the theory held by ascetics and Brahmins outside this doctrine. Ascetics and Brahmins. Ascetics, you can go to India, you can see some ascetics along the Gangaji rivers. Some are naked, some are half naked, some are long beard, mustached, hairs, without clothes. So these types, these are rituals. They are rituals. So that's what in the commentaries is said, it is the theory held by ascetics and Brahmins outside this doctrine that purification is obtained by rules and moral conduct, or by virtues, or by both rules, moral conduct and rights. For the eradication of the remaining 7 factors for eradication of 7 factors, a Sotapanna is reborn 7 times. One who attains the first stage of the 4th stages or levels, Sotapanna. That's the first. Is born 7 times at the most. He gains implicit confidence in the Buddha, his teachings, and the Sangha, the order of the disciples. He would not for any reason violates any of the 5 precepts. He wouldn't, for whatever reason, violate any of the 5 precepts. 5 precepts. 5 precepts. He is not subject to rebirth in states of woeful states or woeful states, as he is destined to enlightenment. With fresh courage as a result of this distant glimpse of Nibbana, the person who has attained the first stage, Sotapatti, he gets a distant glimpse of Nibbana. The noble pilgrim makes a rapid progress, and perfecting his insight becomes a Sakadagami, once returner, the second stage of sainthood, by attenuating 2 other fetters, namely sense desires, kama raga, and ill will, patiga. So that's how the stage by stage, step by step, when we attain, when we move forward, stage by stage, step by step, we drop certain defilements, or we can say. So obstacles to the path of liberation. So this stage, second stage, when he has sense desires, kamaraga and ill will, he drops. Now he is called a once returner because he is born in the human realm only once. Should he not attain arahantship in the birth itself? So he will be born only once in a human realm. It is interesting to note that the Arya saint who has attained the second stage of sainthood can only weaken these 2 powerful fetters, with which he is bound from a beginningless past. Beginningless past. At times, though to a slight extent, he may harbor thoughts of lust and anger. It is by attaining the third stage of sainthood, that of the anagami, never returner. First returner, second returner, but in the third stage of sainthood, that of the anagami, never returner, that he completely eradicates those 2 fetters. Thereafter, he neither returned to this world, nor is he born in the celestial realms, since he has rooted out the desire for sensual gratification. After death, he is reborn in the pure abodes like Suddha Vasa is a name for one of the abodes. An environment reserved for anagamis. There he attains the arahantship and lives till the end of his life. When a layman becomes an anagami, he leads a celibate life. The anagami saint now makes his final advance and destroying the remaining 5 fetters. These 5 fetters are attachment to realms of form, rupa, raga, attachment to formless realms, arupa, raga, pride, mana, restlessness, uddhacha, and ignorance, avijja, arahantship, the final stage of the sainthood. Then he attains, having given up all these things, he attains the arahantship. Stream winners, once returners, never returners are called sekhas because they have yet to undergo a training. Arahants are called asekhas, adept, because they no more undergo any training. An arahant literally, a worthy one, is not subject to rebirth because he does accumulate fresh karmic activities. The seed of his reproduction have all been destroyed. The arahant realizes that what was to be accomplished has been done. A heavy burden of sorrow has finally been relinquished. That is the sorrow. Heavy burden of sorrow has finally been relinquished. And all forms of craving and all shades of ignorance are totally annihilated. The happy pilgrims now stands on heights more than celestial. The happy pilgrim now stands on heights more than celestial, I said, far removed from uncontrolled passions and the defilements of the world, experiencing the unutterable bliss of nirvana. Rebirth can no longer affect him since no more reproductive seeds are formed by fresh karmic activity. Though an arahant, he is not wholly free from physical suffering, as this experience of the bliss of deliverance is only intermittent, not had he yet cast off his material body. Arahant also is not wholly free from physical suffering, as this experience of the bliss of deliverance is only intermittent, nor had he yet cast off his miserable material body. Bliss of deliverance. An arahant is called an aseker, yes, one who has done or one who has not undergone training. As he has lived the holy life and has accomplished his object. I'm trying to use the terms and the words simple as possible to explain this level so that you will be very comfortable with these stages, arahants. The other saints from the Sotapatti stage to the Arahant path stage are called shakers. From the Sotapatti to the Arahant stage, they are called shakers because they still undergo training. It may be mentioned that this connection that anagamis and arahants who have developed the rupa and arupa jhanas could experience the nibbanic bliss uninterruptedly for as long as 7 days, even in this life. This is, in Pali, is known as Nirodha Samapatti. An Arya in this state is wholly free from pain and his mental activities are all suspended. His stream of consciousness temporarily ceased to flow. With regard to the difference between one who has attained Nirodha Samapatti and a dead man, the Visuddhimagga states it, in the corpse not only are the plastic forces of the body, speech and mind stilled and quiescent, but also vitality is exhausted. Here it is quenched and the faculties of sense broken up. Whereas in the bhikkhu in ecstasy, vitality persists. Heart abides and the faculties are clear, although respiration, observation, and perceptions are skilled and quiescent. According to Buddhism, in conventional terms, this is the highest form of bliss possible in this life. So it is good to know that this Dhamma that we discuss, they are hard to understand, but Buddha talks straight, address the question, and thereby, as a Bodhisattva, aspirant to Buddha, he did all his possible that we cannot even think of, the efforts he put forward in achieving this. With the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, may you all be blessed. May you have the wisdom and courage to realize the noble, sublime teaching of the Buddha.
Live by the Dharma. Keep up your spirit. Be one with Sangha. Be like a teardrop that sinks into the great shining sea. Keep up your mind and be free. Let's all be one in the Lord. Om Mani.
That concludes today's program. If you have any questions about the contents of our broadcast, please feel free to reach out to us at info@bdtv.com. Our dedicated team remains committed to sharing the profound teachings of the Buddha, helping you walk the path of wisdom and enlightenment. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next week at the same time. Namo Buddhaya.